Welcome to the Library Connection. I'm Tracey Thomas, Director at B.B. Comer Library, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today. As usual, we have a really great program we've got coming up, and we want to share that with you. But before I introduce our special guest today, I want to say a special thank you to the TV station, because we've just been talking about this is our 30th anniversary of doing our Brown Bag series, and we've had the TV station there with us for most of the way. So we want to thank them so much for always being such a great medium for us to get our information out. And we want to thank you so much for joining us as well. I also want to welcome Dr. Shirley Spears this morning. Dr. Spears is a very familiar face and needs no introduction, but certainly deserves one of her own. And I want to thank Dr. Spears for coming on and helping us talk about this great brown bag lineup that we have. But I want to say before we get into it, a special thank you to her, because as most of you know, Dr. Shirley Spears started the B.B. Comer Memorial Library Foundation. And without that foundation, a lot of this type of programming would not be possible. The foundation, our sponsor, First Bank of Alabama, we're so grateful to them for their involvement with this and making these programs available free of charge to our community. So Dr. Spears, thank you and welcome.
My pleasure, Tracy. So glad to be here.
It's good to be here, isn't it?
It is. It really is.
Another series of brown bag programming. And for people that may not know what brown bag programming is, we do 2 series a year. We do one in the winter and we do one in the fall. And so COVID kind of curtailed our lineup just a little bit, because we certainly had to take into consideration people's worries about being socially distanced and those types of issues for health and safety purposes. So we do a 5-part series now, and we do that every Wednesday for 5 weeks. And the format is you come in about 11:30, we open our room up, and you bring a sandwich, and that's why it's called brown bag.
Right.
You bring you a little sack lunch, and you will get a bottle of water, and you'll get a great pre-wrapped dessert from the Coosa Valley Medical Center at the door when you come in.
Always good.
And we're grateful for their involvement as well, because they've been a long-time sponsor for this program as well, helping provide some great refreshments through the years. So you come in at 11:30, you come in, sit down, find a seat. And the room is socially distanced because we put tables up where we have a couple of people to a table. So you eat, you visit with your neighbors, your friends, and then the program starts at 12 o'clock. It lasts about an hour till 1 o'clock. And so we're really excited about what we have coming up, because this one is called Out of Our Past.
It's a good title.
It's a good title.
Yeah, all these stories.
Good stories.
Some from way back.
So I also want to talk about the fact that this is a 30-year anniversary. Does it feel like 30 years?
No, in many ways it does not, but then I think about all the many hundreds and hundreds of programs that we brought over the years and the work that has gone into it. And I can't say enough good things about the staff and the work that they've done when I was there, and now while you're there, and they don't always get to come to the programs, but they're excited about brown bags, and I like that. I like the fact that they understand the importance of it, and they work so hard to get the brochures done, get them out, and talk to people about it. So they're just wonderful, I think, to help us with that.
Well, I say it over and over again. I'm just a warm body there. The staff is really the driving force behind all of the good things that happen at the library, and I do appreciate them so much for making this happen.
Really good job.
Pulling it together. And 30th anniversary, that seems unreal, but through those 30 years we tried multiple different things to see what was the magic formula for brown bag, and we tried different formats. When we first started, we even did a few series at night to just see how that would go over, and what we found was that the community responded over and over again to the lunchtime format.
Exactly, because we are basically, people become interested in history. I think after they've put that hard work in parenting life behind them, again, they'll turn to history and start watching the History Channel, and they can get out of the house. And I like the fact that men and women both come. You have husband and wife teams that are pretty regular in attending our programs at the library. It's something they can do together.
We have some people that travel a pretty good distance to come in to some of the programs.
We do. We actually have a couple from Huntsville, and they're here because of family and some different reasons from time to time, but they try to time it, I think, so they can come to Brown Bag. And we have some guys from Prattville that used to come pretty regular. So it's interesting to see people come in from Auburn and Huntsville and the different places throughout the state. But when you think about it, there's a huge contingent out there now, the graying population, and they have some free time and they can buy some gas and I mean, they can come and they can pick up a sandwich now and come to us and have. I mean, it's like going somewhere that's free, totally free. You get a great program and good speakers, and you learn something, and it's a little trip. So that's a big thing now, anyway, with seniors getting out, doing bus trips and taking trips together and going places. And so we like being a part of that. We really do.
The people from Prattville have already emailed me and said,
really?
We're waiting on our brochure in the mail, but can you go ahead and give us the dates?
Yeah.
We want to make sure to plug them in on our calendar.
Guys,
So,
and it's guys, you know, that are coming in. So we're pleased and flattered that people like what we do and talk about it and make an effort to be there. It's a great thing.
Absolutely. Well, I mentioned that these kinds of programs wouldn't be possible without sponsorship, and I really want to give a big shout out to First Bank of Alabama, to Chad Jones, and to Randy Fields, because Randy's been there so long for us, and he likes to come to the kickoffs. And of course, Chris Kramer, it wouldn't be a program without seeing Mr. Chris sitting back there at the table welcoming everybody in. But let's talk about First Bank of Alabama just for a minute, because Chad Jones really does have a desire to benefit the community.
He does, and you know, that's part of their big slogan and the way that they, you know, try to do business, and I think they're very proud of their role in the community.
I think so too. So when you see them out and about, just make sure to thank them for, you know, making this kind of thing available to our community. And with that, I want to get started with our first program. And so we will kick off on Wednesday, October the 2nd. And we always like to kick off with something really special. And one thing that we have found that people really seem to enjoy is music.
We like them to have a good time for the first program, and it kind of creates an atmosphere where they want to come back. And who doesn't love music? And what better way? I mean, the songs that we have, they portray our history so well.
They do.
They really do. So it's still history.
So the last music program that we had was a great program by Randall Warren, and so what we found was the audience really kind of liked being able to put some requests in and
that was
have
wonderful.
them sing their songs, and so we will miss Randall this time and wish him well. But we have somebody wonderful that is going to be there to kick off for us, and his name is Eric Ponder. And Eric is local, and he does play with a band called Contraband, but that day he will be coming and doing a solo performance. He said, I might have one other person come with me, but he is wonderful, and he has fantastic reviews, and he does a lot of country and bluegrass, and he said, I'll be glad to take some requests as well. So we think that the audience
I'm
will
looking forward to seeing Eric.
Will really enjoy him as well. So make sure when you mark your calendar for the 5 Wednesdays in October. That's kind of a great way to remember how to set the schedule for this, because we do 5 programs and we will be taking up the 5 Wednesdays in October. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to tell you about the rest of this great series.
Great. What am I going to do now?
Time to visit Brown's Auto Collision.
No problem at all. We've contacted your insurance company and we can get you back into original condition right away. And I just want to remind you that all of our work is covered by a lifetime warranty. We're done.
Wow, that was easy and looks great.
Brown's Auto Collision,
where quality is no accident.
A funeral service represents a family's final farewell to their loved ones. Knowing this, we go beyond what is expected to ensure the ceremony is beautiful and memorable, a truly fitting tribute to that special life. We invite you to visit us to meet our staff and tour our renovated facility complete with a new dining area and catering services. We've been serving the people of this area for over 40 years, and we think that you'll be pleased to find that making lasting impressions remains our first priority. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.
Welcome back to the Library Connection. I'm Tracey Thomas, Director at the B.B. Comer Library, and today we've got our special guest, Dr. Shirley Spears, who runs the B.B. Comer Memorial Library Foundation. And Dr. Spears is such an integral part of planning these programs. And a lot of times it looks like, hey, we've had this speaker before, but they are so good at researching new topics, and it feels like they're constantly coming out. I think once they're driven to research history, they just don't stop, and they keep coming up with new topics and additional research. And so the next program that we have on Wednesday, October the 9th, is Dr. Ed Bridges, and he is a good friend to the Comer Library.
He is, and Ed's been around a long time, and you're right, they're constantly publishing new books, and I'll look and it'll be somebody that I know is, they're a wonderful presenter, and I'll think, sometimes it's a totally different topic. So anyway, Ed has been prolific, but not as much as some people, because he did run the Alabama Department of Archives and History for 35 years. And he was very busy with that for a long time, trying to make history available in a different format, especially for fourth graders and for people that were retired and people that can go into the Department of Archives and History, which is considered one of the best in the nation and has a wonderful director now down there with Steve Murray. But Ed is still very involved. He's still researching, he's still writing, and it's the 200th anniversary. This is a stretch, but it's the 200th anniversary of Lafayette's return to America, because he had defied the French government, taken sides with the United States during the Revolutionary War. And I understand, according to Ed, that he is second as an American hero next to George Washington for us winning our independence. So anyway, he came back after he'd been gone for 42 years, and Ed's going to talk about his return because it was spectacular. In Alabama, nobody more involved than Alabama. Alabama just went all out, and he made a tour of all 29 states, I believe is what there was by that time, and just a wonderful tour. And so he's going to focus on that return and what it was like to welcome a hero, and just the gratitude, and the whole thing is just fascinating. With travel like it was then, that was a spectacular thing to do. And so it's just a good story. And so Ed really wanted to tell it, and in fact got in touch with me, and I had gotten in touch with him, of course, along the way all the time to see what he's doing and that kind of thing. So he said, well, it's the 200th anniversary, so I thought, well, we'll see about that, because we do forget about people like, you don't sit around thinking about what happened that long ago. And I think that'll be a good story for people to refresh their memory on the people that were important to our country, that sometimes we forget about them,
Well, and two, one of the things is, a lot of times we enjoy so much seeing a seasoned speaker, and Dr. Bridges is certainly that, because sometimes you get a speaker and they're maybe a little nervous, and that's no problem, but sometimes they stick straight to their script, and you know that this is, Dr. Bridges is just wonderful because he knows his subject and he's very comfortable with it.
I think it would be hard to find anybody that does a better presentation based on knowledge and just comes out of him in his memory. And so he is kind of one of a kind, and we have some others that I think are really, really good, but Ed really, really stays around the top.
He does.
So he's good. Glad to have him anytime we can.
Absolutely. On Wednesday, October the 16th, we have Matthew Downs coming, and Matthew is another one that has been with us before, and he is a great presenter as well.
I think Matthew is such a great new friend. I mean, he came to our pilgrimage or whatever, but I'd heard about him. I knew that he was down at the University of Mobile, and I think he's has a really good background, and I heard good things about him. So we had him to come in and do a program for us on TVA, which has always fascinated me. And he did such a good job, and he is so energetic, and he's young, and he has written a book on World War I. And so anyway, we've had Marty Olaf come in and do a good program for us on World War I, but it's been a long time. And we find that World War I is a little bit overlooked, and that people don't really remember the importance of it and how it changed our culture so much in the South particularly. And he really is gearing his program toward that, how that war impacted us, and also set the stage for the World War II, which gets all the press and the look, and rightfully so, it was a world war.
Sure.
But with World War I think that we're going to be looking at something that people have kind of pushed to the back of their mind. They remember hearing about maybe their grandfather or their great-grandfather or somebody fighting in World War I. But one thing that fascinates me about World War I is it was trench warfare, and it was totally different from what was to come. And the suffering and the way that those people lived in those trenches, and one thing that was fascinating to me as a cat lady and a cat person was that I read recently, and there are pictures of soldiers with cats in the trenches. Don't you know they love those kitties? Mm-hmm. But anyway, I think it was about 500,000 cats that were brought into those war zones because of the rats. And the conditions of living in the trenches, the cats made it so much better, and they were so loved and cherished by those soldiers. So I thought that was just an interesting aside. I don't even know if Matt will mention that or not, but it certainly caught my attention, especially the picture of the guys sitting with the cats in the trenches and knowing how much comfort a cat can be to those people who love having them. I thought about a little touch of home, almost.
Some comfort.
But World War I, it really is an interesting war, and it was a terrible, terrible war. And it's just something that we need to remember. It's part of our history. So I think it's a good thing to go back, and nobody could do it better, I don't believe, than Matt Downs. He's a really good presenter.
He is a very good presenter.
He's good. He's nice looking, and just, he's just so much fun.
He's personable. He's very personable.
He is.
And from my generation, I think we knew people that were World War II veterans. Of course, I had a grandfather that was a World War II veteran, but you didn't hear very many World War I veterans. You didn't know very many, and I think the more distance we put between those points in history, the more important it is to have somebody remind us about it.
I think you're right, and I doubt seriously that there's the photographs and the material that World War II produced. And as you said, you know somebody that was in that war, and I've heard people talk about their ancestors being in World War I, but there's a lot of distance there.
There is.
But it was a one-of-a-kind war for sure, and it was one that it did particularly impact the South, our culture, the way we lived, in ways that we've forgotten, what it was really like to live during that period of time. So I'm looking forward to seeing Matt, and so glad to have him back in Sylacauga.
Well, it highlights that we've just had the September the 11th anniversary, and it really highlights the distance between events when you're talking to somebody younger and you say, I remember that morning I was getting ready for work. It was a Tuesday morning, I worked late that day and I was going into work late, and they say I wasn't even born. And then you realize there's such a gap there of knowledge, so I think it's great.
And it doesn't take a lot of years to put that gap there. It really doesn't, because one thing that was wonderful in the aftermath of 9/11 was the way this country came together, the patriotism, the way we felt, and how much we loved each other during that time. And somebody said recently, I wish people could be like they were the day after 9/11, where we're united and we know that we have a country to be proud of and that we need to be very loving and protective toward it. So I think I think that's a good example, Tracy, of how soon we forget
Absolutely.
the bad times and the suffering and the sacrifices that people made for us to have what we've got today. So with our series, I like to be able to use it, and you do too, to draw attention to that, because I know how much you treasure your grandfather's
those stories and those memories.
Right, the memories that he had of World War II.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to tell you about the last 2 programs in the series. We hope you'll stay with us.
Coosa Valley Medical Center, one of the top 10 hospitals in Alabama, is also Sylacauga's largest employer. Services from the emergency room to surgery to cancer treatment to post-stroke care. You won't believe what's right in your backyard. It's Coosa Valley Medical Center in Sylacauga. So, if you're sick in Alabama, choose one of the top 10 hospitals in Alabama. That is Coosa Valley Medical Center.
There's a lot in life to smile about. Are loose dentures or missing teeth keeping you from enjoying the things you love? Don't miss out on enjoying life's precious moments. You can be you again with affordable mini dental implants. You can smile again, laugh out loud, and have your self-confidence back. Let us help you make it memorable.
I'm Dr. Rick Redmond. Call me today for a free consultation and give me the opportunity to change your life.
The all-new Marble City Pharmacy in Sylacauga is your destination for the highest quality health care. Our remodeled and expanded pharmacy gives us the space to serve more patients. We've added a drive-through window for those times when you don't feel like getting out of your vehicle. And we still offer delivery within city limits. We feature a full line of over-the-counter medications and supplements. And don't forget our stunning new gift department. New building, same great people. Marble City Pharmacy, here for life.
Welcome back to the Library Connection. I'm Tracey Thomas, Director at the B.B. Comer Library. Today we're talking with Dr. Shirley Spears, who runs the B.B. Comer Memorial Library Foundation. And Dr. Spears is one of the reasons that we have this wonderful series. Her work in contacting these presenters, and they come, Dr. Spears, because you call them, because you have such a wonderful history with them, and they know that when they come to Sylacauga, you're going to have a good crowd ready for them.
Well, we try very hard to let people know what we're doing, and I just appreciate the fact that after I've been gone, 7.5 years, that the library still is so focused and works so hard on doing that. And actually, I think the B.B. Comer Memorial Library, and it's one of the things I love most about being associated, having been associated with it and continuing to be associated, is the fact that I don't know if there's very many people in the state of Alabama that doesn't know a little bit about the library for one reason or another. So it makes you feel good to know that you have a library that's different enough from other organizations that maybe they're wonderful in their arenas, but we've created an arena that's uniquely ours. And I think it's broad and it's meaningful and it responds directly to the needs of the community. You know, you can, at the library, they can listen at the front desk and know what the community wants.
Exactly.
And I think that's the strength of that library being set up like it is, that we are there to respond to the public, to meet their needs. And nobody responded better than during COVID, when y'all were so sensitive to putting a drive-in window in, to setting up a little temporary desk that was shielded, all the different things to protect the public, and still, because you need access during a time like that.
Absolutely.
To information and somebody to talk to also, and the telephone reference service is wonderful there.
And the services that we do are, I say all the time, they're quality of life services. The scanning, the faxing, the copying, the helping people fill out applications, and the helping people set up video interviews for jobs. Those are such big quality of life things. And I have to commend our staff, because they really do respond well to the community needs.
They do. They're very sensitive to the needs of the public, and I think that, I think that's the first qualification for a good librarian, for sure.
I think so too.
I really do.
Well, Dr. Spears, you built such a great program with our Brown Bag Lecture Series, and this one is called Out of Our Past. And again, mark your Wednesdays in October. There are 5 Wednesdays. Mark those Wednesdays and come join us about 11:30 when the room opens. Have a sandwich, have a snack, have a cookie on the hospital, and then stay for the program at 12 o'clock. It'll last until about 1 o'clock. And again, if you see any of our sponsors out in the community, anybody from First Bank of Alabama, Chad Jones, Randy Fields, Chris Kramer, any of them, just make sure to put a bug in their ear how much you appreciate having something quality and free to do in your community.
Mm-hmm. Well, give a note to the girl to drive through or whatever. Anything to let them know how much we appreciate them and how much they're doing for the public when they sponsor this. Because we like, if somebody drives in from Mobile or across the state, you like to be able to give them an honorarium that'll take care of their gasoline and their day that they take out of their life. Because if you have a program at 12 o'clock, what have you done to someone's day? You've taken that whole day. So we like to be sure about that. But
on Wednesday, October the 23rd, we have something fun. We have a very familiar face. We have Miss Ruth Cook, who, if you're very familiar with the marble book, she is the author of that, done a tremendous amount of research on Sylacauga marble. So she's a great friend to the Comer Library, but she's going to do a fun program for us on the 23rd.
I think Ruth will do a really fun program with this, which she simply called it Superstition. And looking back, and after Ruth sent me what she had, I look back and it's like 1 out of 4 people are still superstitious after all this time and all the things that we know. But in 1996, there was a Gallup poll, and that's been a while, but still, I imagine if you took it today and people were truthful, it would be the same way, because do you walk under a ladder, Trace?
No, I don't.
Do you turn your car around if a black cat crosses the road in front of you? Are you glad if you find a penny that it's heads up? So if we think about our life and all the little things that we know about, and it's passed down, it comes from parent to child to whatever. I don't know how long that will be true. I know it's still true. I know it's still true, and I know that people know about things, and it works against poor black cats, and people put their black cats up at Halloween and that kind of thing. But she really will, I think she's going to challenge people to think about what they know about superstitions also, and to share their stories. So Ruth is just a great presenter anyway, and I think she's so pleasant, and she's been so good to the library. She really
is.
has.
She's such a good friend to the library, so we hope you'll come out and enjoy that program. The last program, we always like to wrap up with Dolores Hydock, and if you've ever seen her, you understand why, because she will be with us on Wednesday, October the 30th. Dolores is just a wonderful way to come in and sit down, listen to some adult storytelling that adults, after you've lived some life, you can really appreciate some of her stories.
You really can. Well, Dolores mentioned to me maybe a year ago that she had a program that she had put together on the Dewey Decimal guy, and also on Andrew Carnegie, who was the great patron saint of libraries and financed having so many built. You know, I think we have a Carnegie Library in Talladega, or, you know, that sort of thing. It just made an impact on the whole country in terms of libraries. And she loves libraries, and so anyway, she put together, it's called Shelf Life. And I noticed that Sarah used a picture of the card catalog on the front of the brochure. And she says it's a story journey through the library stacks, accompanied by organized, obsessive Melville Dewey and Andrew Carnegie, a man who was called the patron saint of public libraries, and by contemporary Mark Twain, a self-serving hypocrite. So anyway, it's an interesting story about public libraries, but also about two men who sort of made them, people know about the public library. So any subject that Dolores chooses, you will not be sorry that you listened to her and came to see her.
You will feel glad when you leave.
Right, glad when you leave. And so right now seemed like a good time to think about public libraries and how wonderful they are, and
absolutely
how critical they are to quality of life. And so I said, hey, let's go for it and do that story. So she is thrilled to bring that story. I don't think she's done it much. She tries out a lot of stories on B.B. Comer Library.
Well, we'll be glad to have her, and we're glad to have you with us today, and we'll be glad to have you join us the 5 Wednesdays in October for our Brown Bag series. Thank you again to the TV station. Thank you again to our sponsor, the First Bank of Alabama, to the Comer Library Foundation, and thank you, Dr. Spears, for joining us.
And I enjoy so much being a part of it.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you.